Now the Denise build is complete. There was something missing. I needed a joystick to go with this machine, and I wanted something that fitted the same aesthetic. So I decided to build one in a project case in the same style. All the parts for this are pretty much from AliExpress or Temu, so this is very much a budget build. The aim is to put this Sanwa, made in China, joystick into this enclosure, along with a couple of joystick buttons. There are some obvious problems that I need to overcome along the way. First order of business, I've already removed the mounting plate from the Sanwa joystick. I just need to replicate these holes using a step drill. It looks like the hole is approximately 21 millimeters. On further inspection, it's 21 and a bit millimeters. And I'll need to do a similar thing to fit the buttons, which are 30 mil. The simplest way of doing this is to use this as a template, but I need to make sure I get it central on the project box. Looks like I've ordered the Weeble edition of these buttons. Now, having carefully marked where all these holes need to be, I'll go to the garage and drill them in slightly different places, just to make the job of fitting the actual joystick slightly harder. The astute among you may have noticed I have only drilled one hole for the joystick button. That's because using the step drill, I can't get all the way through because it starts to foul on the underside of this case. So I'm going to have to use a more traditional hole saw to cut the 30 mil holes for the joystick buttons. Another trip out to the garage sees us with two joystick holes. Getting a 30 mil hole saw to go into a hole that you've half drilled proved to be a little bit more challenging than I expected. Because without the center guide of the drill in the hole saw, it tends to move about a little bit more than you'd like. But it's nothing that we won't be able to sort out later on. Because I did some very small modification with a file to the PCB on the joystick, this only actually fits in the enclosure one way, and that one way is not the way I've currently fitted it. So I'm going to have to pull it all apart again and turn it around 90 degrees.
Shit.
So if you didn't happen to have everything you needed to build this in your garage, you could use the services of PCBWay. They do sheet metal fabrication alongside their traditional PCB manufacture. They can provide prototype PCBs for as little as $5, and the other services are quite impressive too, which include 3D printing, injection molding, and CNC machining. They've also got a huge selection of shared projects, and you can find some joystick related stuff on there too. Included Rob Smith's 3D printed joystick and Lee Smith's Atari 2800 replica joystick. All this and more can be found on PCBWay.com. Thanks PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Well, the colour was described as violet. I was expecting it to be more of a purple shade.
What's wrong with this one? Oh, nothing. It's just I'm not sure about the colour.
Well, we'll have to see if we can find a solution for that later on. Yep, so the master plan for fitting the joystick into the case once it's closed is drilling a 72mm hole in the bottom. Yes, a 72mm hole. I've also managed to source a rubber plug. I'll just have to wait for that to arrive. The joystick wirings for the Atari 9-pin joysticks is fairly well documented online, so rather than me going over that, I'll just gloss over that part and just assume that I wired it up quite nicely. Well, that's one big glorious hole. And we probably need to do something about the top of the enclosure to give that a lick of paint. Well, I've had some paint left over from when I sprayed the charity Gotek in the sparkly glittery black, so I used that.
Too jazzy?
It's kind of a 80s retro arcadey sort of theme, isn't it? Well, that's everything pretty much test fitted, so let's get the cable put in and get the whole thing put together properly. Well, it all fits. It's not exactly pretty inside here. It's all reasonably well wired up. I did have to put an extra ground in because I managed to damage the PCB when I was filing it down to where it would fit. A quick test on the first Amiga I had to hand. Not the best of screen captures, but it does show that the joystick works fine. Now to do something about the slightly boring black top to the joystick. It turns out that the French were in fact the answer. This aluminium purple top to the joystick is much more what I was thinking. You'll also note that this is quite an industrial feel. I wanted something that people weren't afraid of using when I went to RetroFest. I'll make sure I put some links in the description to the slightly harder to find parts that formed this build. The ones that are on Temu and AliExpress may still be available or may not. Well, RetroFest was an incredible 2-day event. There was a huge host of machines and a huge host of people, including this strange guy who kept wandering about filming stuff. Well, if you did attend the RetroFest at the Steam Museum in Swindon, I hope you enjoyed the show. Hopefully this is the start of something that will keep happening year on year. Also hoping to attend the event in the Cambridge Centre for Computing History in November. I'd also like to take a moment to thank my Patreons. If you'd like to become one of the supporters of the Hack Build Restore channel, then you can sign up at patreon.com. So if you found any part of this entertaining or informative, then please click like. And if you want to see more videos like this, why not consider subscribing to the channel? It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me out. And in the meantime, why don't you check this out next?